hit all the answers.
Shanghai's heat was supposed to break him, but Novak Djokovic doesn't crumble, he evolves. Under suffocating humidity, the world watched the Serbian legend fight through exhaustion, dizziness, and even vomiting on court, only to rise like a machine programmed to win. He was on the edge, the crowd holding its breath, as the greatest of his era stared down a younger, hungrier opponent in Jannik Sinner. Down a set, his body screaming, Djokovic's mind switched to survival mode. Every point became a war, every rally a statement that age, pain, and pressure mean nothing to a man who's built his career on defying limits. And while Djokovic clawed his way back from the brink, chaos erupted across Shanghai. Jannik Sinner, the defending champion, suddenly collapsed from cramps in the deciding set. Taylor Fritz, the American powerhouse, fell to an unseeded 2-0-year-old with a serve that shook the stadium. By the end of day 5, the tournament had exploded into madness. The favorites were falling, the humidity was punishing, and Djokovic was the last man standing in a storm no one expected. But the real question is, how long can even he survive this brutal test? For Novak Djokovic, Shanghai isn't just another stop on the calendar, it's his fortress. A city where he's lifted trophies, broken records, and turned doubters into believers. But 2025 was different. He arrived not as the invincible world beater we've known for 2 decades, but as a man testing his limits after a grueling season. The whispers had already started. Can he still dominate? Can the 7-year-old survive this new generation? He heard them all. The fans were divided, half expecting another masterclass, half waiting for the fall of a king. And Djokovic, he just smiled that cold, familiar smile, the one that says, "You're about to remember who I am." From the first moment he stepped on Shanghai soil, everything felt different. The air heavier, the court slower, the crowd louder. Even nature seemed determined to challenge him. Humidity clung to his skin like armor he didn't ask for. Reporters described the conditions as brutal 30 degrees, 80% humidity, like playing tennis inside a sauna. But Djokovic thrives where others gasp for breath. He looked across the draw and saw a mix of rising stars, Sinner, Fritz, Rune, each desperate to prove this was the year they'd finally dethrone him. And yet, behind the calm eyes of a veteran, you could see it, that spark of defiance. He wasn't here to survive. He was here to remind everyone what resilience really looks like. And when the draw revealed his first opponent, a fellow veteran, Marin Cilic, felt symbolic. 2 warriors of a fading era, one last clash under Shanghai's blazing lights. The perfect test to see if Djokovic still had the fire. When the match began, the crowd didn't realize they were about to witness a time capsule, a reminder of an era when Djokovic and Cilic ruled the tour like generals commanding rival empires. 2 veterans, no strangers to pressure, facing off not for ranking points, but for pride. For Djokovic, it was personal. After months of critics calling him too old, too slow, past his prime, he needed this a statement match. Cilic came out swinging, blasting serves that echoed through the arena like thunderclaps. Djokovic absorbed each one, deflecting power with precision, like a swordsman slicing through bullets. Every rally was a chess match, angles, patience, control, the kind of tennis that separates champions from mortals. By the middle of the first set, sweat dripped from both men, the humidity turning every breath into a battle. And still, Djokovic refused to blink. When Cilic tried to outmuscle him at the baseline, Novak shifted gears, deep returns, impossible defense, counterpunches that made the crowd gasp. He broke serve with a cold-blooded forehand down the line. No roar, no celebration, just that icy stare. It was vintage Djokovic, silent domination. Cilic fought back, but every time he thought he had momentum, Novak snatched it away like a thief in the night. By the end, the scoreboard told one story, but the body language told another. Djokovic was back, and he looked dangerous. His movement sharper, his anticipation unreal, his aura returning. The match ended in straight sets, but it wasn't about the score. It was about the message the king was still standing, and anyone dreaming of taking his throne better come prepared for war. And yet, that war was only beginning. Because what waited next was something no opponent could prepare for, not a rival across the net, but a battle inside his own body. No one expected it. Not from Djokovic. Not from the man known for outlasting everyone, for turning exhaustion into fuel. But Shanghai had other plans. The sun was merciless, the air thick like fog, and the heat wrapped around him like a vice. By the second set against Jannik Sinner, Novak's shirt was drenched, his legs trembling, his focus fading. At 4-5, he leaned over between points, gasping for air, hands on knees, his body screaming for mercy. Then came the moment no one could believe. Djokovic bent over the sideline and vomited right there on the court. Gasps rippled through the crowd. For a brief second, even his opponent looked frozen, unsure whether to celebrate or worry. This wasn't just fatigue, it was survival. Every fiber of his being told him to quit, to walk away, to live to fight another day. But quitting has never been part of Djokovic's DNA. He wiped his face, took a deep breath, and stepped back onto the court. No drama, no excuses, just the eyes of a man who refuses to be broken. Commentators were stunned. He shouldn't even be standing right now, one said. But Novak wasn't there to survive, he was there to conquer. Hanfmann smelled blood, swinging harder, trying to finish it before Djokovic could recover. The crowd sensed the shift. Every point felt like a heartbeat, every rally a test of willpower. And then, in the middle of the chaos, it happened. Djokovic's energy came roaring back. One perfect backhand down the line. One cross-court winner that painted the corner. The kind of shots that make opponents realize they're not just playing against a player, they're playing against history itself. The set went to 7-5, Djokovic's face pale, but his spirit alive. By the third set, the world number one wasn't surviving anymore, he was hunting. Each return deeper, each serve more precise, as if he'd found power in the pain. And when match point came, he didn't roar. He just nodded, calm, composed, unbreakable. The man who looked moments from collapse had just clawed his way to victory in one of the most brutal matches of his career. But the chaos wasn't over, because while Djokovic was fighting his body, the rest of the tournament was falling apart. At this point, Djokovic wasn't just winning a match, he was rewriting what endurance meant. Every step looked like agony, but his mind was sharper than ever. That's what separates him from everyone else. When the body breaks, the mind takes over. With the crowd sensing a miracle unfolding, every shot he hit drew louder cheers, every rally pulling him deeper into the zone. He started reading Hanfmann's game like an open book, anticipating serves, redirecting power, turning defense into art. At one point, he returned a 130 mile-per-hour serve and flicked it back with a half smile, like saying, "You'll need more than that." By the midway point of the third set, Djokovic was in full command, legs heavy, lungs burning, but his focus absolute. He played point by point, never rushing, never showing panic. When Hanfmann went for broke with wild forehands, Djokovic stayed composed, letting the errors pile up. That's vintage Novak, the master of patience, the silent punisher. And just like that, the crowd's fear turned into awe. He wasn't supposed to win this. He wasn't supposed to even finish this. But he did both with precision, poise, and something even rarer in today's game, grit. After shaking hands, Djokovic barely celebrated. He walked to his chair, closed his eyes, and just breathed like a warrior who'd survived the impossible. The camera zoomed in on his face, sweat pouring, eyes half open, but the faintest smirk appeared. He'd done it again. But as the world praised his comeback, the rest of the tournament was descending into chaos. Because just hours later, the defending champion Jannik Sinner would face his own nightmare under that same suffocating Shanghai sky. Just when fans thought the drama couldn't get any wilder, Shanghai delivered another twist. Hours after Djokovic's heroic comeback, the defending champion Jannik Sinner stepped onto the same court that had just chewed up veterans and left them gasping. The Italian star looked confident, calm, in control. But the heat had no mercy. Point after point, you could see it, the bounce in his step fading, the fluid motion replaced by stiff, sluggish swings. By the third set against Talon Griekspoor, his body started to betray him. Then it happened. Sinner froze mid-rally, dropped his racket, and grabbed his legs in pain. Cramps. The crowd fell silent. He tried stretching, tried moving, but his legs simply locked. Even the umpire looked concerned. Sinner, who dominated this very event a year earlier, was now forced to retire mid-match, his dream of defending the title evaporating under the cruel Shanghai humidity. He walked off to polite applause, exhausted, heartbroken, and human. But the chaos didn't stop there. On another court, Taylor Fritz, the American powerhouse, was expected to roll past a 20-year-old French upstart, Giovanni Impecci Pericard. Except nobody told Pericard he was supposed to lose. The kid served rockets, each one louder than the last, painting lines like a sniper, while Fritz grew more frustrated by the minute. Every rally turned into a power contest, but Pericard didn't blink. In just under 2 sets, he pulled off one of the biggest upsets of the tournament. Fritz walked off the court, shaking his head, disbelief written all over his face. Within hours, the landscape of Shanghai had been turned upside down, Sinner gone, Fritz gone, the draw blown wide open. And standing in the middle of the wreckage was Novak Djokovic, bruised, battered, but suddenly the favorite again. Because when chaos reigns, experience becomes a weapon. And if there's one thing Novak knows better than anyone, it's how to survive chaos and turn it into history. By the end of day 5, the Shanghai Masters looked like a war zone. The young guns who were supposed to dominate had fallen one by one, leaving behind a path cleared for a familiar name, Novak Djokovic. He didn't need to say a word. His presence alone said it all. In a tournament where youth was supposed to take over, experience had fought its way back to the top. With Sinner out and Fritz gone, the draw had cracked open like glass, and suddenly, every headline in the tennis world was asking the same thing. Is this Djokovic's moment to strike again? And the truth? It absolutely is. Because when chaos surrounds him, Novak thrives. He doesn't just win titles, he feeds on uncertainty. Every upset around him becomes motivation. Every fallen rival, a reminder that the throne still belongs to him. Reporters asked if the brutal heat would slow him down. He smiled and said, "I've played through worse." That's the difference between talent and greatness. One breaks under pressure, the other builds empires from it. And as the cameras panned across the locker room corridors, you could feel the tension. Players whispering about the conditions, strategizing how to survive, while Djokovic quietly stretched in the corner, calm, focused, unshaken. It wasn't arrogance, it was clarity. He's been here before. He's seen every kind of storm, and each one has only made him stronger. Now, with the field wide open and the title within reach, the question isn't whether he can win, it's whether anyone left can stop him. Because in Shanghai, under the suffocating heat, amidst the chaos of fallen contenders, Novak Djokovic was beginning to look less like a survivor and more like destiny itself. What makes Djokovic unstoppable isn't just talent, it's the mind. When others panic, he breathes. When others see a wall, he sees a way through. And that's what separates him from every generation that's tried to replace him. Because while Sinner, Fritz, and Rune bring power, Djokovic brings something far rarer: control. Mental control? It's not flashy, it's not loud, but it wins when nothing else can. He's turned focus into a weapon sharper than any forehand. He can read opponents like a chess player mapping 3 moves ahead. Every glance, every twitch of the racket, he processes it all like a computer built to decode pressure. That's why, even after nearly 2 decades on tour, no one truly knows how to beat him when it matters most. You can out-hit him for a set, maybe 2, but when it comes to closing, he owns the moment. It's psychological warfare, and Djokovic always wins the war. Players talk about the Djokovic aura, that invisible wall that breaks your confidence before the match even starts. In Shanghai, that aura was back, stronger than ever. Opponents could feel it in the locker room, that calm stare, that quiet energy, that message that says, "I'm not losing today." And as the younger stars crumbled in the heat, Novak was rewriting another truth that Greatness isn't measured by how fast you rise, but by how long you can stand tall when the world expects you to fall. It's not luck, it's not magic. It's mindset, and Djokovic's mindset is built on fire, failure, and fight. And now, with the road to the finals wide open, that same mental steel was about to be tested once more. Because in tournaments like Shanghai, legends aren't remembered for surviving, they're remembered for conquering. As night fell over Shanghai, one thing was clear: Novak Djokovic had turned survival into domination. The tournament that began as a test of endurance was now his battlefield. The air was still thick, the humidity unforgiving, but his focus had sharpened into something almost superhuman. Every match ahead promised new threats: big servers like Hurkacz, creative shot makers like Rune, young grinders chasing their first taste of glory. But none of them carried the scars or the scars' wisdom that Djokovic did. Each blister, each collapse, each comeback had forged a champion who doesn't fear chaos, he controls it. And make no mistake, the rest of the locker room could feel it. When they saw Djokovic walking in, stretching, smiling calmly, they knew this wasn't just a player, this was a statement. While others were recovering, he was resetting. While others were doubting, he was planning. Because for Djokovic, tournaments like Shanghai aren't just about trophies, they're about legacy. Every time he steps on court, he's fighting for history, for every statistic that says time should have beaten him by now. But time hasn't. And as day 6 approached, the energy in the arena felt different, like something monumental was brewing. Fans whispered about a record 5th Shanghai title. Analysts speculated whether the new generation could stop him. But deep down, most already knew the answer. You can't stop what doesn't break. And Djokovic at this point wasn't just chasing victory, he was chasing immortality. Because in this era of rising stars, only one man still carries the fire of the past, the intelligence of the present, and the hunger for the future. The others play to win. Djokovic plays to outlast time itself. As the lights dimmed in Shanghai and the crowd's cheers faded into the humid night, one truth echoed louder than any headline: Novak Djokovic is still the heartbeat of tennis. At 37, his body might slow, but his will refuses to. He's not supposed to be here still winning, still rewriting history, still defying logic. But that's what makes him different. For every young star chasing fame, Djokovic is the living reminder that greatness isn't about hype, it's about hunger. It's not about how loud the applause is, it's about how long you can stand when the world counts you out. Day 5 inches, Shanghai wasn't just a battle for survival, it was a declaration. Through pain, exhaustion, and chaos, he stood tall, not because he had to, but because he was born to. And as the tournament marches on, one question lingers: can anyone stop him? Or are we simply watching destiny unfold, one comeback at a time? Because when the storm hits, when the lights burn brightest, and when the crowd gasps for air, Novak Djokovic breathes.